Oh, crap. What's up, everybody? I'm going to apologize in advance because today at Speedy's Garage, I'm going to be on a bit of a rant. So where I live, every year you're required to get your license plate renewed, and I assume that's the case in most places in the United States at least. I'm not sure how it works in Europe. However, where I live, I'm required to take the car through an emissions test, and it's kind of a stupid test. It's an extra $9 you have to pay. They check the pressure on the gas cap, and they plug a unit up to your OBD2 port and basically read for any engine trouble codes or emission systems that are marked not ready or disabled or having some kind of problem. And there's about seven or maybe eight different emissions systems in the car. You got your catalytic converters that are checked, you've got the oxygen sensors that are checked, you got some misfire sensors that are checked, and some other things. Last year, our legislature finally, it's by county, so you got the state of Tennessee, which is where I live, and you got each county or each city in the state, and you got counties in the state, and each county can choose whether or not they want to participate in emissions testing. And luckily, last year, my county voted to do away with emissions testing. So that all went through. It went through the House and the Senate, got signed off on and all that stuff. I'm not a political guru by any means, but I did follow it along online and was able to see that it passed. Now the challenge is we passed it as a county, and now our representatives have to go and present that to the EPA and a bunch of other government agencies to get it finally signed off on before it actually goes into effect. And so again, that happened right at a year ago, and they're telling us it's looking like it's going to be at least another year before they're to the point where it actually isn't required anymore. And it's kind of a stupid thing in my opinion, because you've got a brand new car. This is a 2016 model. It was the same thing on my Camaro. I recently had to run it through emissions testing as well. Brand new cars come with at least a 10-year, 100,000 mile emissions warranty. So if there's any problem with the emissions system, you just take it in and get it repaired. And it's a 10-year, 100,000 mile, and I believe that's federally mandated. So why in the world do you need to take a brand new car down to have the emissions system checked or tested and then pay a fee for that and make it a requirement to get the license plate renewed? I've never agreed with that. Several years ago, I actually wrote my local legislature and my representatives, and I asked them, I said, hey, I've got cars that I don't drive every day. I might drive them 3,000 or 4,000 miles in a year. And oh, by the way, you've probably got some folks that are retired, they're in the same boat, they don't drive their cars a whole lot. Why don't you guys put some kind of special exclusion in place for folks that have cars they don't drive every day? Now, they've already got the one that's the antique auto. If you can get your car classified as an antique auto, and I believe it has to be 25 years or older. If you know that's not right, leave me a comment below, but I think that's the way it's set up. You don't have to go through emissions. But they don't have any exclusion for cars that aren't driven every day, that might be called a hobby car or a fair weather car, or for older folks who probably are on fixed incomes and don't drive every day or don't have to drive to work every day, and they're hardly putting any miles on their car either. So to have to go and test all of these cars and pay these fees, it's just absurd in my opinion. But I'm sure it's a way for someone to get their hand in your pocket, and I'm sure some of that $9 testing fee goes back to the state, because I did notice in the documentation where they talked about eliminating emissions testing, it did say to as part of that, legal writing in that bill, that it would allow counties to increase their emission testing fees, their license plate renewal fees. So hint, that means they're probably getting a little kickback from all these emissions tests, and now they're going to raise the price to get your license plate renewed, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was the same amount they're getting on the kickback. And in my situation, it's going to be an even bigger pain in the butt, because I've been working on the Hellcat a little bit, and I've had the battery disconnected. And when you disconnect the battery on one of these cars, or even, sorry about that, any modern vehicle, it basically erases the status of all the emissions monitors. And so that means you have to go drive the car around and go through a bunch of drive cycles, and it checks all kinds of stuff, coolant temperature and how many times you've start and stopped the vehicle, all of that kind of thing, before it will set those monitors back to ready again. So I have literally been driving this car all week. It's now Thursday, in the hope that I could get all the monitors to set. However, I've got one, as you saw, You can check it with HPTuners or whatever your tool might be. You can also do it on the dash like I'll show you, but I've got one that just is taking a long time to set, and it's the oxygen sensor readiness. So I'm gonna have to go through some kind of crazy drive cycle to go get that monitor to set. I've literally driven the car for 3 days back and forth to work, and it hasn't set yet. And so I'm gonna have to go through this nutty drive cycle. I had it happen on Orange Crush too, and so you have to take it up, and I'll tell you about that in a little while. I had to make notes, it's so complicated, but it worked on Orange Crush. I'm hoping it'll work here. We can go get this thing emissions tested today and get our license plate renewed. And you can check the status by keying the car to run, but don't start it. Now we're gonna watch the check engine light over there. If it starts flashing, it means it's not ready. If it stays solid, it means we're good to go. Oh, crap. You can also check by connecting up HPTuners, connect to the vehicle, let it run through that process, and then click the engine icon at the top. And you can get read DTCs. It will pull up your sensors as well as any check engine lights, and it will show you what's ready and what's not ready. And as you can see here, everything's good to go except for oxygen sensor. And that's the last one to set. So we're gonna have to go do a drive cycle to get that taken care of. Okay, so to get this thing to set, we've had to come up on the highway, and I'm gonna read to you all the steps you have to go through to get this last monitor to set ready so that this car will pass an emissions test. Fuel level must be between 15% and 85%, so not full, not empty. Your engine temp has to be above 158 degrees, which mine is. I've got the performance pages up, and I can see that I'm at about 186, so we're good to go there. Engine runtime must be greater than 92 seconds, so we're good to go there. Now, we have to drive between 68 and 72 miles per hour without using cruise control, keeping the RPMs between 1200 and 3000, not stepping on the throttle hard. It says to keep the map between 7.5 and 15 inches of mercury, so light throttle. And we have to do this for 5 miles. So I'm gonna cruise, no cruise control, just light throttle at about 70 miles an hour, and I'm gonna monitor the mileage till I get to 5. And that says that should turn on the upstream O2 sensors. So those are the ones pre-catalytic converter. Now to get the downstream downstream oxygen sensors to set, you have to drive for 5 minutes under the same conditions. After 5 minutes, you decelerate from 70-ish to 55 twice without hitting the brakes. So we're gonna slow down, just let the car coast down from about 70 down to 55, and then accelerate back up to 70 again, and then let the car slow back down to 55. Then we have to stop and let the car idle for 1 minute. Then we have to shut down the car and remove the key. And I'm actually going to get out and shut the door, because you know this car can stay, the computers can stay powered up. As you know, if you shut the car down, you can still hear the radio and stuff. So I'm actually going to get out and shut the door and walk away from the car so that I know it's shut down. And then you have to wait 2 minutes. And they say after you do all of that, oh, by the way, go stand on your head and chew bubble gum and rub your tummy while you walk, you might be lucky enough to get that monitor set. If it doesn't, you have to repeat the whole process all over again. So that last oxygen sensor readiness monitor is kind of a pain in the butt, and it seems like it would be pretty easy to trip it. If a dealership was working on your car, they almost always disconnect the battery, and that resets everything. And so if you're thinking about having some work done to the car, make sure it's nowhere near when you would be going to have your emissions test done, if that's required where you live. In my case, I was trying to get everything done to get ready for the track, and the timing just worked out. I actually did hook the car back up and had everything good to go, but I don't drive it every day, and the time just caught up with me, and it's time to get the tags renewed before the end of the month. So I only have a few days left, so I'm kind of stuck, and I'm out here doing this crazy drive cycle, hopefully to get this thing to set. And I know it sounds like I'm complaining over the $9 and like this is a big deal. It's not the money. $9, you know, it's not the huge deal. The problem is the inconvenience. It's having to go to a location, have the car tested. You usually sit in line about 45 minutes because there's a whole bunch of other people there getting their cars tested too. So you have to almost take half a day off work to get this done. Then you have to go to another place, or you can mail in your renewal, but they charge you an extra $2 if you do that. And oh, by the way, you can't use a debit card when you renew your tag because they want to charge you a fee for that. It's like 3% or something. So it's really just an inconvenient way to do things. You ought to just do it all online. If you have a certain model year car or newer, not require an emission test, you just log in online, sign up for your new tag. It's a little sticker is all they give you. It's a little bitty sticker. And where I live, I've got a specialty plate on this car. The renewal fee is about let's call it $112. I think it's $112.50. And I'm sure there's some other places where it's less than that. We have a county fee and a vehicle fee. I forget what the two things are called, but it's on your registration. I know there's some places that are much less than that. I think our crew chief, Greg, for example, he lives 30 minutes away from me, east of where I live. They don't have emissions. I think his renewal is like 40 bucks, so it's much cheaper. And so it's kind of unfortunate every county sets their own renewal and their own processes and procedures. If I registered my car as if it were at his house and that's where my address was, I wouldn't have emissions to deal with, and he's 30 minutes from me. So again, I'm not worried about the money. It's just the major inconvenience that it causes every time I have to go do this. And when you have more than one car, I know first world problems, but when you have more than one car, it just compounds the issue. So I'll be so glad when they actually cancel this. And for my friends that live in places like California, where I know it's way more expensive to get your car plates renewed, and I think you guys, unless they've changed things, have to go through a pretty severe car testing process. But I think they put it on a dyno or some kind of machine that you actually run the car on, and they sniff the exhaust and do a bunch of other tests. That's only one of the reasons I couldn't live in California. For you guys that can live out there and deal with that kind of stuff, more power to you. I feel bad for you guys because it's such a pain in the butt out there. And I think it's also a percentage of the vehicle's value to get your tag renewed every, 3 years or 5 years? I don't know how long it is, but it's quite a bit more expensive, I think, than what I pay here in Tennessee. You guys that live out there, or if you're watching this and you haven't had an emissions requirement or a plate renewal requirement where you are, leave some comments. I'm curious what you guys go through every year for your vehicles. So we've completed our 5 miles at around 70 miles an hour. Now I'm going to start watching the time and do the 5 minutes. Cruise up and do that, and then we're going to do the deceleration, and hopefully these monitors are set. Wish us luck. All right, let's see if we can confirm with using the check engine light if we're good to go now. We're going to take the car to run. We're going to monitor the check engine light. So far, so good. Okay, it did not start flashing, so that typically means we're good to go, but we're going to confirm it with HPTuners. And just like before, connect to the vehicle, click the engine icon for diagnostics and info, read DTCs, and as you can see, oxygen sensor is now complete after that drive cycle. So we are good to go to pass emissions in our county. Okay, so success. So there you go. We proved that the drive cycle method will work in resetting those difficult emissions ready sensors, or readiness monitors, I guess is what they're called. So now we're going to head over to the emissions center and hope that the line's not too long. So it is a miracle it is not crowded, but I did kind of time it so that I came right in the middle of the month rather than the end of the month, because most people wait to the last minute. Let's see how quick we can get through this.
Already gave me registration? Cool. Hang time for me.
All right. How many cars a day do you check on average?
What's that?
How many cars a day do you think you guys test on average?
Yesterday I did about 117.
Wow. That's a slow day, I guess. End of the month, probably.
Summertime, man, I'll get upwards of like 200, 250.
In a day?
In an 8-hour shift. That's in an 8-hour shift.
That's a ton of cars, man.
It's a lot of cars, man.
A lot of climbing in and out. 250 cars in a day in the summertime.
And I'm a car guy. I'm a muscle car guy.
Yeah.
And I'm a supercharger guy.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, sir.
I have noticed that since I've been working here, which is almost a year, I'm not as like by cars I used to be.
Yeah, 'cause you see them every day now.
Yeah. Every day.
What's the most expensive car you've had run through here?
Probably either a supercharged Maserati.
Oh, wow.
It just came from that Sky Performance down here.
Okay.
And then we had a Viper come through here.
Viper, that's a nice car too.
And it was.
So I mean, it's a good time to be a car guy if you're into that stuff, you know.
Yeah. I watched some of these videos, man, where they.
Good to go.
Oh, good, bro.
Amazing.
Have yourself a nice day.
Thanks, buddy.
Man.
Have a good day. Okay, so a little smiley face over there on the corner means we passed. So now we got to go into the county clerk's office and pay our registration fees. I'm not going to film in there because it's a government building. They might frown on that. So we'll be right back. Okay, so we paid our penance again for another year. We got our registration, just that little decal. Very expensive one at that. So we're good to go for another year. Hopefully by this time next year, we won't have to deal with the emissions. You have to stop at one place, deal with that, and then go to another place to actually get the registration. So I'd rather just do one stop and call it good. I appreciate you guys coming along with me today on my rant. Please give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, and I hope you did. Check us out on Instagram. It's at Speedys_garage, as well as our website, www.speedysgarage.net, and hopefully I'll see you out there and I'll be in a better mood.